Welcome back, everyone, to video number 2 in this little training series. Welcome, Zan. Um, at the end of the last video, you said you gave a little image, actually, of a guy lands in Phuket and he gets out his laptop. And he's probably a bit tense and complaining about the Wi-Fi and can he get on the Wi-Fi and so on. He opens up his workflow and he opens up his dating account and so on. And you said you transplant yourself to another part of the planet, but you are just a guy. There's nothing mythical there's nothing mythical that she can latch onto in who you are and in how you're being. And I've seen this around the world. There is a way that with technology, the world is becoming disenchanted, and the kind of characters or the personalities that you meet on the road are less, actually, in a way. And in culture, there's a way, I think, like our rushing around, our laptop selves, our Wi-Fi hunting, permanently online, um, saps away to a degree the vibrancy of personalities that you meet when you're out. Just a personal kind of
Hmm.
critique, judgment, observation. But the the question I'll put to you is, you said to me the other day that every time you talk about archetypes or becoming an archetype, we recently talked about this on one of the style personal wardrobe episodes. But the question of archetypes, what is my archetype? Can I become an archetype? What does that mean? Just you presenting that topic seems to have guys' ears prick up. And you said to me it was one of the most popular topics that you teach on or present on.
Yeah.
So I'd love to explore this a bit further with you. I'll also say at this point, I made a course about archetypes and embodying archetypes 4 years ago, the Lover, Outlaw, Trickster, Magician. I did a very deep dive into the topic. And it seems that the hunger and the curiosity and the mystique around this theme seems to be growing in the conversation around us.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, can we put together, what if we put together over the next 25 minutes or so, a mini training on finding your archetype, honing your archetype, embodying it, and why you would even do this in the first place?
Okay. Uh, what angle should we go? Like, there are a
Well,
few things I can say. I mean, like I said before, practically speaking, I mean, this is what I did. Whether it's the thing to do or not, I don't know. This is what I did. I looked at masculine archetypes that influenced me when I was young and said, I want to be like that. Whether it was cinema, literature, legends, religion, music, you know, and if you just do that and just examine that, what you think is embodies the qualities that you would like to have in your own spirit. Like I said, I mentioned Casanova a lot. Casanova taught me something. His writings taught me something that I didn't know, that nobody else taught me, which
mm,
is this unapologetic love of women and adventure, trusting to the wind wherever it leads you. And so I learned this, and I wanted to embody that into my spirit of me, which is the personal archetype that I was creating for myself. So, like I said, I went down the corporate buttoned up route, which wasn't aligned with my real spirit, which is more flowing. I wear scarves. I wear women's scarves because men's scarves are utilitarian and navy, plaid, brown, and there's no billowy aspect to it, And I want something a bit more that represents the same flowing aspirations that I had in my childhood summer dreams. I want to recapture that in the flow, and so that's me. So I wear like women's scarves. I wear ponchos. I say reclaimed poncho. Men used to wear capes and ponchos and cloaks in the Victorian age, for instance. Like Sherlock Holmes is always depicted with this half cloak around his shoulders, because your arms are free. You're still warm. You're covered from the elements, but your arms are free, and you're a bit more swashbuckling, I guess you could say, a bit more
mm,
sashaying through life. and now we stuff our suit jackets into puffy coats, and we're like this, all stuffed up. And I say we bring back ponchos and capes. I've been wearing ponchos. I don't know anybody else that does wear ponchos except the influence from me. But there's something in it that has this life flowing feel that represents what I want my life to feel like. That's why I do it. That's for me. And I'm not saying anybody should copy me, but I examined my personal archetype and how I see myself in this world, how I see my future self, because maybe I wasn't that. And I want to be like this more. And so everything around me, the way I hold, my coffee cup, everything is an affectation of that spirit that I'm trying to embody for myself. And like I tell the story of the wonderful posh English gentleman that came here to visit me for coaching years ago, with his Chelsea accent and his buttoned up Savile Row's finest type of clothes and stuff like that. And we were going to go out that night, and I gave him a pinky ring like this. I gave him just to wear, just little kind of blue stone sort of thing, right? And we're sitting in my studio, and he puts it on. It took some convincing. He's like, "No, it's not really me, and it's not my style." And he put this pinky ring on his finger, and the whole time we continued to regale each other with stories and jokes, etc., for the evening. And the whole time he kept glancing down at this pinky ring on his finger, and take a breath and go, "Whoa!" And we went out that night, and the next day he told me he was astonished because that little talisman gave him an energy for him. It changed something in the way he looked at himself. Women complimented. He said, "Well, women complimenting, glancing at it, looking at it," but he was self-conscious. He kept looking at it, and when he was talking, he was using his hands more. He started to gesture more because he's got this ring on his finger. So all these things layered into it. I'm not saying any guy should have to wear rings if it's not you. What I'm saying was, it was a representative to him that there's something outside of his norm, out of his comfort zone, that he could. It was a symbolic thing for that. And now I see him. He comes back to Romania. I see him all the time, right? And he wearing bracelets, rings, etc. But I'm not saying. What I'm saying is that things like this. I wear a hat, right? Things like this have power. And we say, and so when I talk about it in my What Would Zan Do course, the guys, like you said, the ears perk up because they want to learn to be more style conscious and more fashion forward, in aligned with their archetype, as opposed to what's the newest fashion. We're buy some Gucci. And so I think there's power in this consciously chosen way of arranging yourself. We talk about hygiene, women look at your nails, they look at your shoes. Women are always looking at your shoes because it tells a lot about who you think you are, how you see yourself.
Mm.
And so, because women notice details, and things like this ring, like he said, I was more expressive, used my hands more. And I tell you, here's a secret that nobody knows. Women, how does a woman know that a man is good in bed? Just by meeting him. It's because he talks with his hands, he notices details, and he pays attention. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm thinking about this a lot, but and you don't have to copy others, but you take the essence of what it represents, So I took the essence of what Casanova, his spirit, and I said, yeah, that makes sense to me. A lot of these literary icons that I looked up to, and I said, I want to have that. Even the crazy guy Don Quixote, tilting at windmills, nuts, and thinking that he's a grand soldier warrior. There was still something in the spirit of like the careless spirit of it, or Voltaire's Candide. There's something in the careless, the carefree way of looking at life that represents me. That's why ponchos and scarves represent that flowingness to me. That's me. I'm not the strong silent type, which could be somebody's archetype, right? I'm not that guy. And if it's your archetype, then that's what it is. So,
I'm thinking about how I can use my hands more now in conversation, rather than just ripping up the beer mat as I was. And Just
Where
kidding.
a ring or two, you'll start to
That's,
like a hello becomes a gesture, you know, like waving
hmm.
hello has meaning. You find that you're more animated, and I'm telling you, women can tell when a man is moving around with his hands a lot when he's talking. Yeah, he's good in bed. Nobody knows
You
that.
you you said a lot in that passage there, and you said some very practical things, but you also said some very kind of hazy things.
Okay.
And not that I want to turn everything into a to-do list or a sequence of actionable things. Um, Part of archetype work actually, and why this hyper rational people don't like this, because it's moods and atmospheres and wishes and talisman and trinkets and dreams and everything that's irrational. Actually, it comes out of the symbolic consciousness, so it's hard to decode it into a spreadsheet and then buy all the items, as you said, buy all the latest fashion items and then make something. It's not the sum of the parts. Actually, it's, I mean, when you were talking, because I think real archetype work is a practice of intent. First of all, you have an intent, which is, I read Casanova and I really learned things. I want to embody this way of being that was transmitted to me. So you capture specific lessons that your mind is able to capture from the text of Casanova, but you receive a transmission actually of the living spirit of this person who
Yep.
managed to capture his spirit in his books before he went. And you're like, well, I want this atmosphere within me. And I laugh when you're like billowy because you're now spitting copy for a high fashion website. I wanted this air of billowiness in this latest fall winter collection, but the spirit, which is a feeling, which doesn't come actually from the top down as a checklist or a mental intention, that there's a spirit that I already feel because I got it through contagion from these books. The spirit already lives and exists within me, and somehow I want to fan the flames of that. And from my understanding of archetype work, there's a number of different things you can do, very much on the material, buy the scarf, buy the rings, etc. But the archetype yoga, and this is very, very ancient practice that you'll see in different kinds of Hinduism and Buddhism. They have an archetype yoga. And when you go and see a Buddhist stupa, or when you go and see Ganesha, or this statue of, you know, two wrathful deities in a sexual position with each other, these are all archetypes that you absorb into your consciousness so that you become them. So it's a
Hmm.
practice actually of direct will, which is, I'm going to stare at this image of an enlightened sage or guru. I'm going to stare at it so long that I become the same resonance of this thing. This is why there are Buddha heads everywhere, because I had this very, these days they just put, we've got a sauna and a spa area in our gym up the road, and they put a Buddha head in the middle of it just because it looks good. Buddha bar. There's no connection to
Yeah.
the mystical, the real mystical training that is contained within that religion, right? And I'm like wanting to meditate in the spa, and I open my eyes and there's a Buddha head, and I'm like, cool, I got something to practice here. The smiling Buddha is an archetype, and I look at it, and when I looked at the image of the archetype, the Buddha head, it changed my consciousness. Actually, it had me think, wow, I can tap into some of the uh unconditional joy and peacefulness that the Buddha emanates and stands for, and I can find those qualities within myself. So I, with archetype work, we learn it through resonance, not through strategy and like slow week by week implementation. It's almost like, I'm going to read these lines by Casanova. I'm going to wear this scarf that gives at least me the feeling of Casanova when I put it on. And through sheer brute will and desire and admiration and wanting more of this energy within me, I'm going to call it in. Like, I'm going to teach my nervous system, my body, the fiber and sinew within my limbs. I'm going to teach all of that how to live according to the spirit that I admire.
Yeah. I mean, you 100% nailed it. It's it's a contemplative way going forward, and it's choosing. It's all choice, you know. It's all trying to choose a forward momentum that aligns with. I talked about the last video we did. We talked about alignment, and we're either aligned or we're not. And so I came into alignment with. I mean, there's a lot of influence I had. I mean, you think about the carefreeness of Ferris Bueller, the movie Ferris Bueller, you know, and you had one moment in the Ferris Bueller movie where he's laughing and on a lark, completely having his day off. They're in the Chicago Metropolitan Museum, or whatever it's called, and they're looking at the painting by Seurat, I think, you know, which is the point of this one, and it's Afternoon in Paris or something like that. And the whole movie slows down into him just zooming in on this girl's face, and he realizes that, you know, the brevity of life, you know. So there's a meaning behind that, even from these carefree uh, influences and carefree life that you have. There's contemplation behind it all, and you know, I think about these things a lot, and the difference is, you know, people say, well, what is the difference between an archetype and a mask? Well, a mask is something that isn't. An archetype amplifies the true you. A mask hides the true you. A mask is trying to be something that you're not. A mask hides the essence of you, where archetypes amplify the true essence of you to the world and shows that this is how I see myself, this is how I want to represent myself. So it's a different type of thing.
Can you give an example of the men that you've worked with on this topic, of someone who's gone about a real archetypal shift, but they've done it in a way that is not like they genuinely, their choice to embody a certain archetype has borne fruit and has animated them with an open, authentic, connected energy.
I'll give you a good example. There's a guy that I've known for about 15 years that has been close to me, in lockstep with me for 15 years. And he doesn't look like me. He doesn't act like me. He doesn't talk like me. He's his own center of gravity, his own energy center. He's 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 created himself consciously into a being that exists wholly, independent of me, but in collaboration with me. And I talk about the concept as planets and satellites, and this gentleman is a planet. He's not a satellite. He's not a copier. He's 100% original in his own aspect,
Mm.
and the way he looks and talks and feels and where he lives in the world. And his name is Jordan Luke Collier. He's his
Okay.
own thing. You know, you're a good example of that, Jordan. You don't mythologize me in my way of being and what I've done in life, and say but you take the learnings and the essence of it and incorporate it like I do with you. I take the essence of what I'm trying to of the things I find fascinating by you, and I try and incorporate it. But you never became me, and you
Yeah.
never copied me. You created your own version of this entity that stands alone and isn't like anybody else. It's called Jordan. There you go.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't do that because I had a better idea. I had that because it's just impossible to copy someone else. So it would have been an erroneous road. Like, I think this is the only way forward, to try and carve it out.
Like, I mean, like, I was just looking at the scarf I'm wearing. I got
I
it in
mean,
Oxford.
I don't even have the hair. Like, I'm lost from second one if I want to
I got this scarf in Oxford when
do
I was
you.
there a couple of weeks ago, your hometown.
Mm.
And I was walking by this vintage store, and I walked by this old lady, and it's like stacked, like it's like a hoarder's thing. It's like stacked with, you could walk in like 3 feet, and that's it. And she had this scarf buried in there, and she said, "I want £5 for it," and she could only take cash. And I said, "I'll come back with cash." Went up to a cash machine and came back, and some woman was trying to buy it. It's a vintage woman's scarf. And some woman was trying to buy it because now it was forefronted in the pile of clothes.
Mm.
And just a little anecdote, I just thought of that. But it was in your hometown. I bought this in Oxford. There you go.
Interesting. Yeah, amazing. I mean, you took a woman's scarf out of the hands of a woman.
I
I know
don't know,
you
hands on a woman too. Is that
it's like
different?
Stealing food from the mouth of a hungry child. Well, you were there first. I think you're entitled to your scarf.
Right.
Um, just taking a pause actually to kind of collect myself.
Okay.
So, in your experience, do the men that you teach archetypes to have a clear sense of the archetype that they want to become or want to embody? Or are they kind of a bit lost with the theme? Or are they really, are they better served from somebody on the outside of them giving them an archetype that they should move towards? Like how, because I can imagine a lot of people like, this is a cool theme, I get it, but who do I choose? And
Yeah.
a lot of people bring in the kind of Jungian, am I a warrior? Am I a hero? Am I an everyman? These archetypes strike me as really bland, actually. These are great categories, like to be in the warrior archetype, but it doesn't have any teeth in a real world thing. A samurai is a lot more visceral and inspiring than warrior, or a particular like a 15th century samurai with a particular kind of haircut, and this like that gets even more specific. Like the more you break it down into a character, Casanova is very specific. Like libertine is there's an
Yeah.
inspiration to that, but lover as an archetype, as we said before, is very vague,
Very general. What does it mean?
right? There's
Or
something to be
warrior?
said
What does that mean?
about getting really specific and detailed about the archetype that you're
Yeah.
actually
No, I
aiming
think
for, rather than working with a broad category.
like my only advice on that, because I don't know, and you bet that when I mention this to guys, they'd be like, "Well, I don't know what my archetype is. How do I find that?"
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
For certain. All I can say, all I can advise is go back into the contemplative childhood, into the go back into the childhood ambitions you had and what you really liked in the stories around you, cinema, that kind of thing. Like I feel like I'm a cowboy archetype because I grew up around horses. I grew up in the wilderness. Um, I rode horses a lot when I was a kid, and I was in love. I was absolutely enamored by the westerns. The Clint Eastwood westerns, spaghetti westerns. The man with no name. I said that guy keeps his own counsel, silent, deadly. I want to be like that guy, and he wore a poncho. so,
His
so
influence still reigns. Yeah,
yeah. So if anybody said, "What kind of archetype do you really identify with?" I say I'm a cowboy, or I would like to be a cowboy. I wore cowboy boots when I was a kid. I wore cowboy hats all my childhood. You know, beat up ones that I got from old timers. Sweaty old hats, and they give them to me, and I was enthralled. So all I can say practically is look at these type of influences in literature, mythology, uh, whatever legends, religion,
Mhm.
and and say, okay, what was that guy like? And I want to be more like his spirit and his energy, what did he look like? What he would look like if he was in his modern age. That's all I can say, and then just approximate it. You're going to know if it feels aligned or not. Um, remember back in the when there's pickup artist craze around the world, and Mystery was wearing black nails and a top hat and binoculars and uh, you know clown ears in a bar, and all these guys ran around with black nails, top hats,
Mm.
eyeliner and stuff like that, and it wasn't them at all. And they just copied something that worked for Mystery because that was authentic. He was authentic. He was a magician, and that it had an authentic ring to him. He was aligned, um, congruent with his archetype, and everybody else was just copying, imitators. And maybe that's how you. Maybe if you imitate, I shouldn't be so judgmental on that because maybe if you imitate and you don't know, and so you imitate something you really like to the extreme degrees that these guys did, maybe learn something about yourself, and learn what
Yeah.
you're. So, um, fake it till you make it is the whole phrase, like, yeah, I don't know.
I like what your the invitation you make, which is to go back to your childhood and look at some of the heroic figures that animated you and made you come alive. Like there's a lot of joy in that. When you talk about the cowboy, there's so much joyfulness, and I sense a lot of people that come and do some training that will go and see you in Bucharest. Possibly joy is the one thing that they need to recapture in their own
Yeah.
lives. And actually, if I think, God, I'm a 45-year-old man and I'm at this level and station, these are the things that people expect from me. If I start wearing a few trinkets that evoke the cowboy, I'm going to be so embarrassed. Well, that
Yeah.
embarrassment is just really a sign of how divorced you've become from the inherent joy you had as a little boy
That's
as you were
correct.
growing up. So the thing is to, in your own time, move towards the archetype that brought you joy. But in the meantime, give a little space for the embarrassment.
Yeah.
Let the embarrassment be there. Burn through some of that embarrassment, and then one day turn up with a Stetson or whatever, one of these little tie. I don't even know what it's called. The little tie with the
Polo.
strings hanging down or something like that.
Polo tie.
Right.
I have some of
So
those.
I
I have
bet
a
you
lot of
do.
them. That's
So
funny.
so this is
A
a
lot
kind of
cowboy
repair.
hats
So
too.
I think there's a couple of different ways of working with archetypes, and one of them is to recognize something that's already looking to rise within you. You can almost see different archetypes and energies like planets waxing and waning through the course of somebody's life, right? So you hit a certain age, and then as responsibilities come up and you're trying to take care of more people than just yourself, naturally the king will rise within you, right? And then there's periods of your life where that wanes and another archetype comes to the fore. So whatever phase you're in your life right now, one thing is to contemplate yourself and do a little inventory and just wonder which archetypes are in recession. Like what phase in your life seems to have come to a close, and you can't really embody that anymore, or at least the energy to embody that has run out. And that might mean putting some things away for a little while or letting go. But also, I think what's really exciting is looking at the next decade. We just talked about reinvention in the first video. Looking at the next video and noticing like what kind of moons are now starting to surface over the horizon, which archetypes are moving up. And it can be really surprising to people actually, because if I've had a self-identity, let's say as this wandering vagabond, to realize that, oh no, I have a family now and people that depend on me, and I have a place and I'm in the middle of a community that I'm serving, all of a sudden it's like my whole identity shifts if I really think about it. And I wouldn't have noticed that my identity shifted because I wouldn't have contemplated it.
Yes.
So I sense that every man that we're working intensely with usually is in a moment of real transformation. That's why we're working with them intensely. And the constellation of archetypes that are making up their energy and their demeanor and who they will be over the next 5 to 10 years is being swapped out.
Thinking about what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that there's characters, Some people are characters. They create themselves. They look at their experience in life and their body and their self as a work of art, and they try and paint it or sculpt it in a certain way. It's interesting, actually. There's a lot of cookie cutter people, you know, copy paste women, copy paste men, and there's nobody that stands out archetypally. Very few, and you really notice them when you see them, and they're interesting, you know.
But this is the other approach to archetypes. So one is there's archetypes always starting to arise or diminish within us. But the other way is just the brute force. I don't have that and I want more of it and I choose it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So when I did the course, I chose four broad archetypes: the lover, the outlaw, the trickster, and the magician. And
Right.
people struggled with all of them. People struggled most with the trickster because that's about um taking leave of your mind so deeply that your life is a cosmic joke. You need basically an enlightened awareness to completely play tricks of consciousness with people, to joke, to come into this place where you're
Uh,
unattached to everything.
so that's like
It's a
Loki.
pretty far out thing. Yeah,
Loki and Coyote was the Native American trickster. And he was Coyote.
you're like these people live so far out of the bounds of normal human society that they have absolutely no shame. And then from that place, they can just play with the fabric of the universe. They can really mess with you, and there's no comeuppance because these people will never contract and get angry and annoyed because the trickster is just like you can't stop this. But this is a facet of the personality that many people can have, right?
Yeah,
And the outlaw is a really interesting one because um, most people feel constrained by their own conditioning. I want to be a good guy. I want to be a good man. And therefore, anything that might be out of bounds of social goodness is not in my personality, and I'll never allow myself to go there. So that's a description of decency, but it's also a set of circumstances that are going to pen you in, right? If I'm not willing to do anything that's outside the law, I'm completely stuck. And sometimes what you need to do is have your own morality, which is more strong than the morality that is foisted upon you by everyone around and the expectations. Just going up to speak to a woman for a lot of people is like I'm perforating the film of what the unspoken social contract is saying that I should and should not do.
I'm being
So
outlawed.
yeah, so I need an outlaw archetype within me that's like, you know what? I considered my own morality. I made up my own rules. I'm going to live by my own rules. And there's so much energy in the outlaw. That's why a lot of people are scared of the outlaw because it's like, the cowboy, like, or the what's this person going to do? Or like at least the baddie, the bad and the ugly in the cowboy films. What's this person going to do? You don't know, and that's why they have so much vitality to them. So the outlaw is the archetype that can set a boundary. The archetype is the one that's going to say, I want that. You might want it differently, but I want that. It has a raw force of life to it. So for me, one of the most transformational archetypes that I've seen men dabble around with is, what is your flavor of outlaw? And I think in your law, in the gypsy and the pirate are both outlaws.
Yeah,
The pirate definitely.
yeah, and
These are certain archetypes within, there's many different kinds of outlaw. But whatever your flavor of outlaw and however you want to break some rules, this is one of the most important things to consider. So when I think of archetypes, it's like, yeah, there's the clothing and the mystique and the kind of the spell of presence aura that you can cast on other people that you meet because you're couched in a different energy. But I also have learned that in the fabric of these archetypes, an archetype is shorthand for a lot of skills.
yeah. I guess
So
that's true.
within every archetype, you get a whole bundle of skills. So the outlaw knows what he wants. The outlaw can set boundaries. The outlaw can get in a fight and then not guilt trip himself afterwards, or over apologize for taking a stand. The outlaw can take a stand. The outlaw considers and forms his own morality and the limitations of the morality all around. And then the outlaw comes to his own kind of honor system with other people that are outlaws. I mean, there's a lot of different skills built into this. How many workshops would you have to do to learn how to set boundaries, to then learn how to declare what you want, to get in a fight and hold your own? Like, there's a lot of learning. But if you were just like, I'm going to learn the archetype of the outlaw, you get the bundle of skills downloaded within the same pack,
That's true.
right? And it's the same with the lover. Yeah, you decide that you're going to be a lover. You get poetry, you get emotional intelligence, you get embodiment, you get sensitivity to art and music, you get appreciation of beauty in women, you get a sense of flow and existing in the present moment, unconstrained from past and future. So,
Yeah,
like, to embody the lover archetype fully, you get a whole bunch of stuff.
it's part of the archetype.
that
Otherwise, it's not
the whole
archetype.
house get yeah. So I sense this as beyond the style and the fashion and the aura aspect of it. My sense is archetype work gives you a concrete set of skills uh, in a super highway period of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So obviously there's a lot more to this that you'll have to break down, but what you're looking to do, rather than learning how to set the boundary, learning how to, declare what you want, you're teaching yourself actually how to vibrate differently in your body. And the more that your body vibrates differently, you find yourself able to conjure the energy to do a bunch of stuff,
Right.
because you can't set a boundary without energy in your chest,
That's
right?
right. Yeah.
So by learning how to embody these archetypes first, you learn how to move energy through your own body. This was profoundly exciting to me when I started to
Well,
discover this.
you take any of these broader archetypes like lover, magician, outlaw, and stuff like that, and you take the pieces and the fragments of it that align with you, how you see yourself. See, because we're a mixture of everything, and then you become your own archetype. Like, is there a Zan archetype that is not quite a outlaw, not quite a lover, not quite a Casanova? I don't know, but maybe by the time I'm older, I will that will exist an archetype that is standalone, because it's you get influences from all kinds of places, and if you're contemplative and thinking.
Yeah.
So it's a fascinating subject, and you talk about it at length in the trainings you do, right?
Yeah.
So this is going to be something that's really near and dear to our hearts and our conversation going forward in the guild, as we have conversations there, right? The Emirati Guild.
Yeah. For sure, for you, the kind of the hermit and the sage have been voiced, as things that you naturally go into just by virtue of character and age. Um, on my side of the street, I had a conversation recently with some of the Emirati members, and there's a fun exercise where you swap archetypes with your partner. The one of the archetype that uh, my partner said to me that she wanted me to grow into more was the oligarch archetype, which is totally different from my personality. And she would be like, "Wow, I would really
Wow.
feel excited and attracted and turned on and safe and admirable if you were to embody the oligarch." And I was like, "Well, I have nothing, not just a king, but an oligarch, added ruthlessness and um,
Yeah.
almost unrestrained levels of power." That would be very exciting for her if I was to embody more of it. So there's so much. I would never have chosen that for myself. There's so much to play around with in all of this. But I wanted to ask you one final thing, or not even ask you. It's kind of just like throw in the air as something exciting. So two of the places that you're going to visit over the next year to run your intensives, one of them is you're going to Vamaveki, which
Yes.
I believe
In the
is
summer.
I've not been, but it's a particular Bohemian town on the Romanian coast. It's not, is it Mamaia?
No, Mamaia is more upscale, more expensive, huge
Okay,
city.
so I'm getting the name right, basically.
Yeah.
There is Vamaveki, and then there
Vamavek.
is Mamaia, and they're totally different archetypal places that
Yes.
create a completely different vibe and experience for a different kind of person.
Right.
Right. So that always struck me as interesting, how there are two summer beach spots 20 kilometers down the road from each other, but the what they stand for and what they attract is completely different. And then you're going also to Venice to run
My
one of
plan
your
is to Venice
intensives.
with guild members that
Yeah.
want to come with me and do kind of a pilgrimage to the birthplace of Casanova and steep in that for a few days. Like, really just contemplate my childhood influence. And what I did is I went on maybe I said this before, but I went on years ago, 15 years ago. I gotta be 15 years ago. I went on a sojourn to Bavaria, to
Mm.
the north of Czech Republic.
Oh, yeah.
I hired a driver to drive me up, to the Castle Waldenstein in Dux. It's called Dux, right? In Dachau in German, right on the border of Germany, because that's where Casanova wrote his memoirs for 11 years. So I went there pilgrimage on my own, and I toured the place, his rooms and his library, and place where you ate and all that kind of stuff. And I was only one there. So what I want to do with the guild members is, who's with me? Let's go on a retreat. Let's go to, my plan is to go to Venice and just sit there in the wonder of what it all, it's 1780s, 17, that Casanova was wandering around there. And here we are now. And what has changed? And now we're in the age of AI, and just sit in contemplation of this journey, this archetypal man who really influenced me. I've got a ton of books on Casanova. I got his memoirs here that I read when I was a kid, and yes, he was a scoundrel and a scandaler, and you could cancel him for certain for all the bad things he did, but his spirit just caught me, and so I want to take this pilgrimage with guild members who want to come with me on this journey, and let's go on to the birthplace of Casanova and contemplate what has happened since him, what he meant, what it means to us today, what is our role in life. That's my idea of my live retreats that I'm going to do within the guild, which I'm excited about, because I couldn't do that with all the Amrani members, but with the guild members, we can go somewhere on a literary retreat, or to go to Valmavecchia, like you said, in the summer, because I go to the beach, and it's not necessarily to go to the beach to get the volleyball. It's to go there and just sit in the wonder of where we are in this place on earth. Everything I do is like steeped with maybe more meaning than that's necessary, but I really think about things a lot. So
Yeah.
anybody wants to come with me, guild members, you come with me and hang out.
So people can find out more about that by clicking on the guild link below in the description.
Yeah.
I mean, really exciting that you're doing these trips. What I wanted to just comment on as we wrap this up is that these places are fundamentally archetypal. So people already know, if I'm going to hang out with Zan in Venice and we're going to walk in the footsteps of Casanova, I know the archetypal vibration that's up for grabs in that weekend. And if you want that, then it's going to be, something that you have to do.
Yeah,
right?
I'm
Like
going to
if
do it.
yeah. So if you're going to Venice, you know what archetype is in the air, and you know what energy is available to you, and you know how that can subtly start to transform actually your personality and how you embody yourself. And I think it's the same in Romania. People will know Vamaveki less. I imagine that in the lore of, let's say, younger Romanian, like generations actually of Romanians coming of age, hearing about the hippie culture and what is possible, like freedom and the liberation and the artists and the bohemian life, I imagine it's been a rite of passage for years and years to go to a place like Vamaveki for generations of Romanians. And like going to that place, I remember, music festivals in England growing up. By virtue of having gone to a music festival once, I am now a different person. So let's say you've been to Glastonbury once and slept. I know everyone complains, well, it's more commercial than it used to be, and our Burning Man doesn't mean anything now because it's not like the real people. There's obviously that's just part of these places, but to a young person, go into a place like Burning Man or Vamaveki or Glastonbury Festival one time, you come back and you're forever different. You are now experienced, and somehow your whole demeanor has been shaped by the cultures of the people that converge in that place.
That's right.
Sometimes for the worse, but often for the better.
Yeah. Archetypal
So,
place.
so there's something about steeping yourself really in a place and getting to know like old timers and having adventures that feel authentic there. The place itself transmits a kind of archetype.
That's what I should call my little retreats. I should call them sojourns, because that's what it is. It feels like a sojourn into literary history, into a mythical past, into a connection to our ancestors, to ruins. Yeah, because I want to go on sojourns myself, in a contemplative way, and think about what came before and what's coming up, and be excited about the future. I'm excited for this new initiative.
So, as a bit of homework, I'll invite you to write down one archetype that is naturally arising in your psyche right now that is new. So, archetypally, how is life already birthing a new archetype within you without your conscious control? And make a note of that. Second piece of the homework, what is one archetype that you feel you don't have, that if you had it, would absolutely balance your personality for the better? So this was part of my talk on the outlaw.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, ask a friend or ask a loved one and say, look, you've known me for a while and you can see how I struggle in my life and what my flaws are, what would really balance me and put me in greater harmony. What archetype do you think I should grow into that would be really compelling or really in service of me? Like my example with the oligarch, right? For some people just need some warrior, or some people need some outlaw. Some people need the I don't know, the bohemian Casanova. So that's part two. And then part three, if you're, this goes back to the first video, if you're drawn to a particular place to travel in the world, Venice, Romania, Bali, Colombia, wherever it might be that really holds your interest right now, archetypally speaking, what is in that? Like, what does the place represent archetypally? And who do you imagine you will become more of by virtue of being there?
Yeah.
So, example, I went to Brazil as a young Englishman who was not particularly sensual or forthcoming with my passions. But Brazil, archetypally, meant for me that by virtue of being there, I imagined that I could become more like that. Right. So, there's some flesh, something more to flesh out the sense of voyage and return for you.
Yeah, that's good.